Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance. Now, it's time to welcome two serial entrepreneurs, leaders, husbands, and fathers who are passionate about sharing the strategies that are helping them excel in life and in business. Here are Mauricio Garcia and Hubert Humphrey.
It is truly a great feeling every time we get the opportunity to go live here at the Conquistador Podcast. My name is Mauricio Garcia, and you know that I am always joined by my mentor, my friend, and my partner, Hubert Humphrey. Hubert, can you hear me, sir? How are you?
I can. How you doing? Great to be with you today.
Oh, well, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Obviously excited because we get to talk about those things that can help the entrepreneurs, the driven, determined dreamers out there really excel in their entrepreneurship, exercise. So today we'll talk about surge, explode, and plateau. I know it's a very powerful concept, and maybe just begin by asking the direct question: what do you mean by surge, explode, and plateau?
Well, surge means you compress enough activity, you rev up your engine, you build up enough energy and power and potential thrust that can cause you to have an aggressive vertical move, a quantum leap forward in something, and I call it my the volcano building principle. It's how you build a mountain.
Volcano principles.
It's like a volcano. A volcano, almost any big giant mountain that you see probably was from volcanic eruptions, like Mount Hood out in the Pacific Northwest, or down in Mexico, outside of Mexico City. That what is it, Popo?
Yep, there you go. El Popocatépetl.
That's a gigantic.
There's a few. There's actually a few big volcanoes in Mexico, but yeah, that's one of the most popular ones, Popocatépetl.
Well, I've been in Mexico City.
Yeah.
When that was active, and dust just was spewing everywhere, all over the whole city. You couldn't do anything to get away from it. When I was there, that was 4 or 5 days years ago. So I've seen it. But what happens in most of the Hawaiian Islands, for example, those were just volcanic eruptions that ended up being enough to end up creating a great paradise zone. But what I'm saying is that here's how a volcano erupt. It down up under the ground, all this, what becomes lava, and what becomes all this big spewing of dust and everything, and fire and heat and gas and everything, that's all built up underground. It's surging. It's getting tighter. It's getting more and more compressed until all of a sudden there's an eruption. The explosion is an eruption, and then it explodes, and great things happen. And as the dust settles and the lava starts to flow down, it hardens. Then later as another volcanic eruption occurs, and lava spews out, flows down, and now you're building more mountain, and it hardens. Through a long period of time, surge, explode, plateau in nature causes all these explosions, and the lava, as it flows down, the mountain just gets bigger and bigger as the volume it comes. And so the surge in our business, surge means to maybe go have like a 2 or 3 day blitzes. Maybe a 30-day charge, a 90-day madman cycle, or something where you're collapsing, you're compressing activity down into tighter and tighter time frames, and that's where you get the surge. Anything you're doing, it's like if you were going to be a high jumper in the Olympics, you don't just stand flat-footed and try to do a high jump. You try to go and get as much mental energy built up, get everything built up, and then you go and get as good a running start as you can, and then you put all that energy into that pole, and it takes you over the deal. Or a long jump.
Yeah.
You get that running start. You build up, like race cars. If you go to any of the big races, man, when they crank their engines up, they rev it hard as they can, just and got the brakes down, and just the second they go, the foot's off the brake, and all that power just surges them off the starting line. That's what we're trying to do here in life. Yeah. We just gotta get better at surges. You don't just go in one straight line up. You break it down into something that you do. You notice I said surge, explode, plateau. The word plateau. Now plateau doesn't mean go take a break, take a vacation, come back and do it next year. That's a little bit too long of a plateau. But a plateau is where you is a space where you kind of cleaning up. You're kind of retooling for the next surge, explode piece. And sometimes it's putting salve on the wounds where you got beat up a little bit doing that. You got a few nicks here or there. You know, you got to do all that to have that plateau. But then you keep right back at surge, explode, plateau, surge, explode, plateau. That's what I'm talking about.
So it sounds like a great way of thinking to make sure that you don't lose momentum. If you really operate and understand and identify that that's the process as an entrepreneur, you really can get that momentum going. And the last thing you mentioned about plateau, well, I guess if you go to have a really good workout or you ran a marathon, you've got to have that resting, that moment there where you have to re-energize to go at it again. But just understanding that those are kind of the three stages to be able to maintain momentum. But let's digest one of these, because if we speak about surge as an entrepreneur, what is the activities that I ought to be doing in order to create enough of that surge so that we can have a massive explosion? You mentioned, compressed activity. A lot of people probably have heard the phrase or the concept, but haven't really seen an example of how do you compress activity.
Well, you've got first of all, you got to have a better understanding of time, and when you start realizing how valuable time is, and that you can do more and more within certain time frames for certain prolonged periods of time. Now, obviously, every business, every athletic endeavor, everything, there's a period of time when you can do something to the max, and then you've kind of got to, like you said, you get the results from it. Then you kind of got to plateau. You kind of got to ease back, let the engines cool down, whatever it is. Get yourself ready. But in business, you're either growing or dying in the business, in any kind of business. I don't care what business you're in, and so you need to whatever business you're in. That's why they'll have these sales, like a Christmas sale, or a Thanksgiving Day sale, or a Black Friday sale, or whatever those days are. They're always having these campaigns where getting everybody. If you call this number by such and such a time, you'll get this discount. I mean, different kind of businesses have to create different kind of surging mechanisms. But it's just something about this, when you put a deadline on something and you race toward it, you get more results. It'd be like I remember a great book I read years ago called the 1 Minute Manager, and in it talks a little bit about instant feedback. It talks about it'd be like trying to go out and play a basketball game, and all the players are running up and down the court shooting, and there was no scoreboard. Well, first of all, the players wouldn't play very well. The fans wouldn't be that interested, and it wouldn't work. You know that there's you got each quarter's got X amount of minutes, and there's 4 quarters, and at the end of that quarter, that gun's gonna sound, and that quarter's over. So you gotta. If it's 10 seconds before the clock runs out, and they even have 24-second clocks to shoot, so there's a lot of surging in sports. You're creating deadlines to get more a quickening of your performance, to get better results. You're putting an emphasis on something in tighter time frames, and you've got to do that in every business you're going to do in. President Kennedy, when he was talking about putting a man on the moon, this is right before he was killed. In the early 60s, he said, the U.S. is going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Well, they did it in 69, okay? Well, everybody that was involved in that program now, from the president on down, took that seriously, and everything was mobilized against it. And the decade, when the end of the decade is the end of the decade, and they did not want to miss that challenge that they were given, especially when he had died, and this became just another even bigger reason why you'd want to get it done when he had made that deal, that proclamation. So anything you're doing is a surge, is a quickening of activity, and you're using your calendar, you're using your time to get more valuable repetitions of whatever steps in your business need to be done, whatever product needs to be sold, whatever amount of goals you need to hit, whatever kind of production needs to be done to get it done. These big corporations, they know that they've got a certain deadline when they've got to file their deadgum finances for that year. And but if they miss it, their whole stock, the analysts are going to beat them up if they don't come in at the right deadline with the right numbers. Their stock's is going to go down. So everything is about surging.
Yeah, and how critical it is to really understand the time and how to be able to compress it. In a previous podcast, I remember we talked about mini days and how, as a strategy, you teach people how to get what most people do in 3 days for them to do in 1 day by just applying a 3 mini day concept. Because I don't know if it happened to you. Obviously, I'm sure it has, because I've noticed sometimes that you've got to do some things, and for whatever reason, you just don't get down to do it until it's time that you have to do it, and you get things done really fast. And it kind of teaches you that if you with all intention try to really go at it at doing something, you could literally accomplish things in 1 day that could take you weeks. And so I know that we are capable of doing so much more than what we think we can do. And if we apply that principle in compressing time, we can find out that we could literally get the same amount of activity in 1 day that we're getting in a whole week right now. And that's a way to surge. That's a way to build that momentum in there.
What it is, and just anything that's worthwhile is probably going to require a quickening. I know there's thought. I know there's thoughts like lengthen your stride, quicken the pace. Aim higher, reach higher, lean for the tape. Whatever it is, it's just a principle of time. We just got to do things faster. And if you're behind, well, then you don't have any choice. Well, you do have a choice. You can if you're deficient in what success demands that you do in the endeavor that you're doing, if success demands something and you know all of a sudden now you're not on schedule, you're not hitting your quotas, you're not hitting your numbers. Well, you can either just say, well, I tell you what, I'm just going to write off this month, I'm going to write off this quarter, I'm going to write off this period, and I'll do better next week. I've learned some lessons, and that's all great. But that's not what success in most important endeavors will not allow you to do that. You can't just go write it off. You can't.
There's no explosion without the proper surge. It goes like that.
It's compression. In a car. In the automobile, if your pistons in your engine, if the piston rings that are around there get worn, and as the pistons or as the ignition in your carburetor and all that stuff's going into sparks from the spark plugs, firing all that off, and it's going down in the pistons. And if the rings are wore out, and it pushes down there, and the air's going past it. There's no compression. The car loses its power, so everything has to be done in the way success demands it be done.
Precision, yeah. There are certain laws of nature, of just the way things work, that you can't violate them. They're just not. You
That's
just
right.
You can't skip them. So when do you know you're exploding? Obviously, if you had enough compression, you have enough surge activity. How do you know you're exploding? It's probably a very obvious question, but if you're looking at me and the way I'm growing my business, how would you know this guy is exploding? What are the indicators that I'm exploding? Because some people say, well, if I get X results, that means I'm exploding, or I may just not. Just be.
Exploding means that you're having you're making if we're charting your whatever your business you're in, whatever the benchmarks for success are, if all of a sudden you're hitting those benchmarks and exceeding them faster, and you're going on to the next level and you're compounding, you can tell that somebody's starting to explode. You don't have one gigantic explosion and that's it. It's like that building of volcanic eruptions. It wasn't just one big eruption creates a mountain. It's a lot of eruptions over long, sometimes hundreds and thousands of years to equal these big mountains out there. And that's what you do. You just a series of volcanic eruptions in your business. Surges. The surge caused the eruption, and the lava was your success. It was creating a bigger mountain. So when I see the mountain growing in your business, when I see the fruits of your efforts, I can tell there's going an explosion. Explosion seems to sound like some gigantic something. An explosion is a series of, it could be small explosions, it could be large explosions. If you have enough small explosions, one day it'll end up being the results of a gigantic combined super explosion. I know. We started when I met Art Williams. There were 30 people in the company, and I got in there, and I got a few recruits there in the very beginning, and then about a year later we really kind of got it where we could go out recruiting, and about 14 to 15 months later I moved to Denver to open up the West, and I started from scratch with just a little prospect list, and had 1,100 people brought in the first 6 months. In the first two years, I had 15,000 people out there, and move back to Atlanta and continue to open up out west and keep the growth going in the east and west. And next thing you know, in the company, we had over 200,000 people in about a year and a half later. Well, when you go from 30 people in a company to 200,000 people in about 4 years,
it's unheard of. I don't know if there's any other companies done that, but I get the concept.
But you can tell by seeing all the new numbers, all the numbers. There's Pythagoras, the great Greek mathematician. He once said, "Numbers will inevitably lead you down the path to reason, but also those same numbers will also tell you whether or not you're exploding or not, and it'll tell you whether or not you surged and compressed and dammed up your time and went at it with an intense schedule or not. That's what it means. And a plateau means that you all the plateau means is that you've accomplished that surge and explosion, and now you're going to make sure you're getting everything back replenished, get everything refocused, get your team back excited about a whole nother run or a whole nother push for your company or whatever it is in sales or whatever you're trying to do, and you go at it again. And it's keeping people in the game. And of course, I do a lot of recognition with my surges and explodes. We don't just go and have surge explosions. That sounds kind of grueling, but we put a lot of recognition around our surges and our explosions and everything. And our plateaus are probably when they're at a recognition meeting or something where we're giving out the awards and the recognition. And patting them on the back and giving them the attaboys that they need to get going. And then all of a sudden, before they get too complacent, we've already unleashed a whole new vision, which creates a new surge in energy going forward for another explosion.
So in your case, you kind of know when obviously the plateau is happening, and the recognition event, the big events that you do, that the re-energizing, the refocus, to go back into creating more surges and explosions. Okay.
The plateau is a planned event. It's not
exactly.
It's not, well, everybody just ran out of steam and we're just sitting over here on the sidelines. Exactly. That's a plateau. Well, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I mean, just by knowing human nature, I'm assuming that you do the event because you know human nature, and it's like we're not just robots. We have the from the way we feel and the energy we have and just everything. So you strategically plan out these plateau moments and events that re-energize everybody with a innovative campaign for the middle of the year, the end of the year, and I see how you do that.
Yeah, and then after you've had a big explosion, sometimes you so that they don't get tone deaf to what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. They've learned a whole lot. They've gained a lot of experience. They've developed new skills, and all that was going on while they were surging and exploding, and they got some recognition. And you want to see how they function. You want to measure what is the success level and the growth level of your team or your business or your company, but without having that next surge and explosion. So you watch it, and then you'll know when the momentum is requiring a little booster shot, a little kick, and you measure it. You don't just run out and have another one and another one and another one all the time. You might link 2 or 3 or 4 of them together in a like 3 or 4 90-day madman cycles one time, but you just can't keep doing it forever. So you kind of got to know what you got, and you can't just artificially build up your business. You want to build it where you know it's built to last. So you'll know surge explode plateau is designed to is to supercharge momentum. It's to start a whole new momentum campaign. That's what it's all about. Momentum's momentum, and then after a while, momentum needs something to take it to another level and and that's why you do these things.
Awesome. Well, this ties right into a concept that you always talk about, which is in business, you're either growing or you're dying. There's no such thing as a flat line. You're either going ballistic, like the Top Gun pilot, or you're crashing and burning. And I think, would you just speak to that a little bit and how that ties into the surge, explode, and plateau concept, just for everybody to get that clear in their mind.
Well, if you don't have some type of understanding, whatever you want to call it, if you don't want to call it surge, explode, plateau, you call it whatever you want to, but if you don't have some of these rallying points, these momentum moments that you set up by design, it breaks the gravitational pull of human nature. Mm-hmm. Human nature, our default system that we're all built with. When Heavenly Father created us, what a wonderful thing. But He put a default system. We all have the potential to be wonderful. We can do excellence. But there's a default system. It's called average and ordinaryism. And if we're left to our own devices, we'll just be average and ordinary. But if we can have something, somebody, somewhere, something can stretch our vision and cause us to take a next step, we can go. We can break that gravitational pull. And that's really what this thing is. Ray Kroc had a great saying. He said, when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you rot.
It's powerful.
And so we don't want to be ripe. Too many people get a little bit ripe, and they mistake the beginning of getting ripe to be the end, when that's really only the real beginning. It's
sometimes it depends on how hungry you are. I guess I've seen a lot of people achieve a little bit of success and they just get comfortable. Not everybody wants to make $1 billion.
That's right.
Maybe that's because they measure it just in money, other than leaving something behind. But that's a whole different subject.
Yeah, it's all personal. And one thing I did find out, they say success is relative. I found out the more success you have, the more relatives you seem to have.
Why is that?
Why is that? I've got cousins I've never heard of who've called me over the last 30, 40 years. You would not believe the stories.
That's what people. Yeah.
They're my long lost 14th cousin. Oh man, how about that? Yeah. Anyway,
there was a little break in the communication here. I thought you said that wealth is relative, and I said why? Well, you just explained why. Well, we'll leave it with that, Hubert. Awesome episode. And we just want to remind everybody that this podcast is made possible by Hedgeman Group International because they sponsor the podcast. They believe in what we do. And if you want to check out the best opportunity in America today, you need to take a look at Hedgeman Group International by going to hgiopportunity.com. That is hgiopportunity.com, because when you want to go from being average and ordinary to extraordinary, you've got to have the right vehicle. You've got to change a lot of your paradigms. You've got to change your mindset. And this opportunity will not only help you make a lot of money, but it'll also help you reshape the way that you may be thinking about business and entrepreneurship to be able to really get to that next level. Go from where you are now to where you want to go. And so please go ahead, check out hgiopportunity.com. Do it for you. Do it for your family. Do it for a better future. That is hgiopportunity.com. Check them out. And Hubert, I think we'll wrap it up with that, and I will see you, sir, on the next podcast.
All right. See you guys. Great being with you.
Bye-bye.
Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance.